I think I think the essence of the workshop itself, it's about varying changes in terms of I can call it loss of capacity in government institutions and loss of resources in terms of the funding that used to be there. I think they made a case about the response can't remember the presentation of Mr. Andrew Pike. So in that instance, you saw how almost everyone was involved, from the defense, the aerial capability was there, the whole mobilizations. I mean the process. It was seamless. I can use that word. But now the policy says now we need to implement an incident management system on a single command. So now these are international best practices, because as South Africa we have ratified the oil spill OPRC convention, which speaks about as part of the best practices the use of incident management system as a model for oil spill response at sea. And now we then need to comply with our constitution in terms of section 231 to then domesticate the convention and as part of our legislation. And one of the requirements of the convention itself is for us to develop a national oil spill contingency plan. As part of it is to then mobilize the industry and to have a seamless oil spill response capability at sea. So we are trying to build the industry up, if I can use that word. And also part of that is then the industry has to then undergo training, because what was done in 1970 and what is being done now in 2019, those are totally different worlds apart altogether. Although the experience and the skill remain relevant, but in today's evolution, we also then require technology. Technology has advanced in this case. So the need of the workshop itself is to highlight the gaps that are existing currently from then to now, to say how do we upscale that gap and close the gap and upscale the industry to move back to where we used to be and to where we want to go. Because now I think you will know that our former president Jacob Zuma has launched Operation Pakisa in 2014, which then evolved into 6 labs, and all those labs had a different focus. The lab that we were participating on, and actually it's on oil and gas lab, which then led to the establishment of an incident management organization, which was an endorsement by the Operation Pakisa Ocean Economy Ministers, Cabinet Ministers. The lab, the focus area is to support, because there's a focus on ocean economy. The focus is that to grow the economy and to drill 10 wells in 10 years, basically. So now with announcement by Total that they've then discovered oil along the coast of South Africa, it means then we need to do a lot of preparedness for any eventuality of oil spill that may occur or drilling that may go wrong. I mean, you'll remember very well an example of the Gulf of Mexico, which was not so long, and which currently Shell it is still paying for it. BP is still paying for it, because I think it cost a lot of billions, that whole cleanup process. So as South Africa, we don't want to go through that. Hence now, I'm very happy that almost all the principal officers of SAMSA at the coastal offices are here, they're present. And they've done the necessary training in terms of the incident management system and the incident command system, which are equivalent training that you require to implement IMS. So there is a good starting point in terms of capacity, but this is the capacity that we still need to upscale, and so that when we've got an incident or when our coast that it's drilling at a high peak, when we've got numerous rigs drilling our coastline, that we are in a mode of preparedness and response at all times to deal with any eventuality.
Obviously, as the Department of Transport, through the SAMSA agency, you have the responsibility for managing those kind of incidents such as pollution by ships,
yes,
or in case of oil and gas.
Yes.
One other thing that was highlighted here was the erosion of the relationship between different institutions. SA Navy, for example, the SA Air Force, Telcom, and those kind of things. Now, in terms of this reorganization, what's the next step from here?
Yes, I think, thanks for the question. I think the next step, for example, for the department, basically will want to see a well-capacitated SAMSA that is able to take the lead at sea. Because as an implementing agency of the government, we depend on it. As the government, the Department of Transport, our role is policy and to oversee and to provide oversight where necessary, intervene and provide leadership so that things are delivered. I think one of the, as part of the resolutions coming out of the workshop, is that then we need to implement. And one other forum that I see very much relevant to implement some of the findings, some of the resolution, is the Incident Management Organization. I currently chair the organization on behalf of the DG of Transport, who has appointed me. So in that forum, we have industry, we have government departments, and then we've got NGOs that are participating, and entities, state entities also being there. And the forum is also co-chaired by SAMSA, being our agency. I think then we need to have bilaterals. For example, issues of the capacity that we have lost of aerial surveillance. It's something that is very much important. I think we need to address it. One way of doing that is to have those bilaterals with, say, SANDF and the Air Force, just to try to understand what are their challenges. And another important thing is that they have already signed up in terms of accountability, in terms of the incident management system, the Defense Force. So we have already some small cooperation that is there, but then we need to expand on it, maybe have those bilaterals. That is also one way of it. Another way of it is for SAMSA. I think one of the policy statement on the comprehensive maritime transport policy speaks about the review of the Maritime Fund, where then we consider the inclusion of the preparedness and response levy. That levy is what needs to keep us going. Yeah. Because the fund itself, it's administered by SAMSA, but the executive authority of the fund is the Minister of Transport. So that fund, if it then were to be reviewed, it will then fund the work that we do as the Incident Management Organization and as SAMSA to build capacity at the coastal offices to respond better to marine oil spill. One way of it is to consider the use of the drones. Yeah, drones are less expensive. SAMSA can just put a business case together on that one, and then we look at it in terms of funding it, because I also don't understand why SAMSA, we don't have boats, for example, because now we're doing enforcement at sea, and how do we then go and do enforcement if we want to bring a ship back? It's a problem. So then also there is a need for closer cooperation with the SAPS water wing, because they also have got boats. So, and then they need to make them available in terms of arrests for culprits at sea who are either cleaning their bulges and doing funny things or illegal activities in the waters. So I think going forward, these are the going to be issues that need to be discussed and worked on closely.
So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.